5 years ago, I had gotten arrested for a bar fight. This was in a mostly quiet town in Utah, so I was read my Miranda rights, then booked at a local station and put into a cell with this, I believe, Native American guy. He was sitting slumped over. He wouldn't even talk to me, and it took me hours to even work up the courage to say a thing. He didn't acknowledge me in any way. So I laid down and started to play games in my head, trying to pass the time, when I heard a low humming noise. It was from that guy. It was a little annoying, but whatever. It wasn't enough to start a problem, given I'd probably be out by morning anyway. And it wasn't necessary for me to risk making an enemy like that. So I cautiously fell asleep to the humming, but I started to actually like it. But the next thing I remember is the dream I had. It was like an out-of-body experience type thing. I saw myself sleeping in the cell. I couldn't move to look around. It was just a fixed angle on me. But the cell looked different, and what was beyond the bars was what looked to be water and a bright night sky filled with stars. Then the water started to move a lot, like something big was swimming towards the cell, and a big shark with its mouth wide open emerged. And then right before it got to the cell, I shot up awake. And then the first thing I noticed was that Native American guy was staring at me, and he laughed and said, "Well, that must have been your first time." I didn't really get what he meant by that. I said back, "Yeah, it was a crazy dream I just had." And then he didn't say anything back to me and started humming again. But this time, I swear to God, he started to float while he was sitting down. I said, "What the hell, how are you doing that?" But he just kept humming and floating. There was a guard there, but it looked like he was asleep, just like in those cartoons. But then, all of a sudden, I looked back at the guy. Then I started hearing voices in my head. It said, "I am no man. I can look just like you." Then he started like vibrating in the air all of a sudden. His body started to change form. He looked like that sleeping cop. He had the uniform and everything. I just looked at him, shocked, mouth wide open. Then he looked at me and winked, and then like phased through the cell bars and went to that lone sleeping ranger. And then that thing, whatever the fuck he was, unhinged his mouth like a snake and ate the guy. But in a very fast and clean way, not leaving any trace of blood or anything. Then he looked at me again, and I heard the voices again, and it said, "Do not ever speak of what you saw. I was going to take you into me as well, but right before I did, I sensed something in you. You have native blood too." Then that was it. Then the humming started again. The sound was somehow making me drowsy, and I started to drift off. I tried resisting it, but I couldn't. I was so scared. I thought I was gonna die. Then it just went to black. Next thing I knew, I was being woken up by a cop telling me I was free to go. My brother had came and paid my bail. The ride back to my place, I told my brother all about what happened. He didn't take it seriously. He just said I was drunk and stressed and just had some hallucinations, and that because there was someone I thought was a creepy looking Native American, it made me think he was a Skinwalker, especially since we were always told stories about them as kids. I wasn't convinced, but I wasn't going to argue with him about it, given he just saved my ass. I did ask him if we had any Native ancestry. He said no, and don't you think if we did, we would have heard all about it? Which was fair enough. A lot of non-natives out here always claim they're native, despite not looking anything like one. So if our family had even the slightest amount of reason to believe we were part native, we'd probably not shut up about it. We got to my apartment, and once I got there, I just crashed and watched TV the whole day, trying to tell myself what I saw wasn't real. What inspired me to write this was that just about a week ago, I got an ancestry test done, and it said our great-great-grandmother was half native. This shocked me, but it could just be a coincidence. But seeing that made me relive that experience I had in the jail. And I'm sure of what I saw. I felt it. It had to be real.